Parkcast, the UK's original theme park podcast.
Welcome back to Parkcast, Park fans. We're a podcast for theme park fans, and we're here every week talking about the theme park industry and chatting about things that are going on or that are piquing our interest. I'm Bex, this is Kev.
Hi everyone.
And this week we are joined by, I was going to say our youngest guest, but actually I think Digital Dan is younger. But one of our youngest guests, making me and Kev feel very old on the podcast, and a guy who's got a huge amount of responsibility. We are delighted to welcome to Parkcast Harry Peake, the General Manager of Clacton Pier.
Hello, look, thanks for having me. Looking forward to having a good chat about all things going on Clacton Pier.
Yeah, and as well, we haven't done an episode based on like a seaside amusement park. So I think this is going to be quite interesting for all of us and find out sort of how things are going for you and the state of things at seaside parks. We know it's been a tricky year for a lot of theme parks. So we'll find out how things are going for you. But first, as I kind of hinted at in my intro, we do have to talk about you because I think this is fascinating, the position that you found yourself in and the responsibility that you found yourself with at your age. You're still under 30 and you are general manager of an amusement park.
Look, I pinch myself most days. I love my job. I have a great passion for the industry and what I do. So I often say I don't work a minute in the week. I think the reality is we work quite a few minutes in the week and quite a few hours in the day. But I think when you do something you love, it's a very lucky position to be in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there's going to be so many people listening to this who are just theme park nerds, like, as we always say we are, who would do anything to be in your shoes and kind of would say, well, actually, that's what I want to do when I grow up. So, it's amazing. And we will come to how you've got to be in that position. But let's take it way back. So would you categorise yourself as a theme park nerd?
What's really interesting is growing up, I was terrified of roller coasters. So we kind of visited theme parks as a family, but a couple of memories that stand out to me. I still remember a family Alton Towers trip and standing at the front of the corkscrew with my mum and dad, and it was a year it was closing. And I remember them turning to me saying, "Do you want to go on it? You'll regret it if you don't, because it's closing this year and you'll never get the opportunity." I turned around and said, "There's no way I'm going on that. No way." And they're like, sitting there now, you're going, "Why didn't I just go on it?" But I love the atmosphere, love what was going on at parks, but I just did not like rides. So I think if you were to ask me when I was 6 or 7, it would have been a no.
Something must have changed.
Yeah, I don't know where this pivotal point was. I think the industry really got me on when I was young, doing trips out to Orlando to go and see Disney World. I think that's kind of what got me and decided, look, I think I'd like to do this. But quite when that balance shifted to go from I'm terrified to this to okay, look, no, this is good and I'm enjoying this as a day out alongside my career. I can't pinpoint when that was. I think university studies was a big turning point, but that also was a bit of a happy accident as well. So I was about to finish my A levels, due to go away and study a digital marketing course. I was always going to be a marketeer. Did a few marketing jobs, bit of experience in it alongside my studies, and then last minute just kind of decided I think I'm doing this for the sake of it rather than because it's what I want to do. So I slammed on the brakes, took a gap year that I spent teaching in a primary school, and then just stumbled across the course that they ran in conjunction with Alton Towers. I think I went in as the second year. They're celebrating 10 years of the course this year, but I went in as the second year. So the first time I would have looked at it, it didn't really exist because it was the first cohort. So I stumbled across it, and after my gap year, went off and studied, and as I say, the rest is history, really.
Is that a course at Staffordshire University?
Yeah, it's the visitor attraction and resort management. A lot of people, when you look at that name or look at the concept, or when you look at the pieces they've done in the media, think you go and study roller coasters and count inversions, all that kind of things. But the reality is it's a business management course. It's just specialised in that industry. So I did that. Then I went on to do a further business management degree. So sort of I'm covered in or out of the industry. But yeah, I think it's a really special course. It's a really fantastic thing, and there's nothing else like it. I've always liked working. I started my own little business when I was younger. I worked alongside school sixth form. So the idea of going to university and stopping working for me was a nightmare. So to try and find something we could go out, come out with a degree, but also have hands-on experience in an industry I was passionate about, really was the ideal outcome.
That sounds amazing. So how does that course kind of look? Because I guess there's gonna be people listening to this who haven't heard of it and are now like, hang on a minute, what does I can work at Alton Towers and sort of get a qualification for it?
Yeah, so it revolves around, you spend time in university and then you have paid work placement weeks. And the idea is you travel around different areas of the business, seeing it all, seeing what it's about. So there's a bit of a progression path that they lay out for the individuals that go on that course. I was really lucky to be going in there with some experience. So the kind of plan was you'd go in there, the first year you'd work on the front line, the next year you'd move up to team leader, the next year you'd go up to assistant manager. I went in and they saw potential very early and invested in me, so kind of threw me in at the deep end. So I was finding myself in fairly high roles, but for my age and for the attraction of that time. And look, because I liked working and enjoyed working, I got in a place where I'd be at uni a few days a week, and all the other days I'd be working. So I think officially you're supposed to be doing this set placement blocks of a few weeks here and there. But for me, I was like, look, I've got an opportunity to go out and see and learn what this industry and its attraction's about. So I spent every minute of every day working, learning. So some people's university experience, I think, is all about partying and having a good time, and not knocking that, because for some people that's exactly what they want to do. But for me, I took so much benefit and joy out of really learning, and what I saw for the time I was up there, it was put me in such a great framework, because to see that volume of different departments, different roles, different operations, different seasons, I think allowed me, following graduation, to come out really quite rounded and probably know a lot. Most people when they graduate, when you're looking to move into a graduate role, they expect you to have 20 years experience or whatever. It's something ridiculous. They expect you to have work experience and a qualification. But I was really lucky to be in a position where I had that. So I think that was a really good really good stepping stone in my career anyway.
Whereabouts in was that specifically Alton Towers then? Because you're in Staffordshire, was there a particular part of the Towers? Was it hotel or on park? Was it everything?
It moved around. So I spent the bulk of my time in entertainment, marketing, and hotel, food and beverage. So it covers a lot of the site, lots of different roles. Funnily enough, in some happy little accident, there's three of us that have studied the course that are working for the pier. So
oh wow,
that's cool.
Yeah, so one of my course mates, one of my housemates, funny enough, is the rides manager on site. So he'd come there, and we've had our digital marketeer studied a few years after us. So I think somehow we've accidentally become a bit of a graduate home for on the course.
Staffordshire Uni will be loving it there. They'll be like, look, see, the course works. These are all our graduates, and look, there they are. They're working in the industry.
Yeah, it's amazing. And look, some remain at Alton, others go out and see the industry. Some sadly don't stay in the industry, but look, I can't fault it for what it gave me and where it's got me. So I think it was a really important part of my development.
Sounds amazing. What era were you there?
I was 2017 through to 2019. I kept going back to Alton a bit, so I was moving around a few different jobs in the years that followed, and always seemed to find myself in between finishing one and starting another at Scarefest. So I made two following appearances. So I did Scarefest 2020. Potentially one more after that. I think I did Scarefest 19 and 20. So I went back a couple of times after, but my main run was 2017 through to 2019. So I was in marketing at the time. They launched Wicker Man, which was amazing, really exciting. And then the year they launched the Dungeon and the Stargazing Pod. So it was a nice year. I think Wicker Man. Wicker Man, I look back as one of the best little chapters in recent Alton history. So be there during that was amazing.
Well, the marketing was amazing on that.
Yeah.
And they certainly got it right, because we know in the past certain rides, 13. When certain marketing campaigns don't always land that well. But the Wicker Man stuff was really good and worked really well.
Yeah, and we know that Alton had always been nervous about marketing a wooden roller coaster because they weren't sure how the public were going to take to it and how they could make it seem exciting. So it must, oh God, to sit in some of those meetings where they were chatting about that and what the campaigns were going to be, that it must have been absolutely fascinating. For me as a nerd anyway, I'd be like, this is so exciting.
It was well underway by the time I came in, as you can imagine, because it opened shortly after. So I think it was finishing touches and things like press night. And
I went to the press night.
Yeah,
maybe we saw each other.
Yeah, I was on the press night. So
we might have been on the same train at some point. The press night, I just recall there was like free drinks going on in the like courtyard. And so most of the people on the press night, they'll have a ride and then they'll go and get the free drinks and the free food. And I was just like lapping Wicker Man in the dark because I was like, I'm never going to get the opportunity to do this again.
I don't think it's ever been, in my eyes, as good as it was on that night. I don't know if it because it was new.
It was wild.
But that evening, I just think back with such fond memories of.
Yeah.
It was a real pinch me moment of just standing in front of it, looking amazing. They put all the additional effects in that night.
Yeah.
Going, look, this is pretty cool. If little me would have seen this, I think he would have been quite excited.
Yeah.
And you mentioned at the start that the first time you went to Alton Towers, you didn't go on the corkscrew, so you'd never ridden it. Do you still sometimes go, I wish I had? If you used to walk in under the under those corkscrews,
you can't escape it, can you?
Yeah,
like,
okay.
Every time you go to Towers now, it's like, there it is, it's still there.
It's a big old reminder of look what you could have had. But, at the time, I really didn't like rides, so there was no way I was getting on it. I think now I'll happily go on anything.
So after you finished your course and you were let loose into the big bad world, where did it take you next? Where did you sort of get your first full-on paid job?
Yeah, so I had a bit of a funny little chapter after that. So I graduated. I grew up in Norfolk, so Stoke-on-Trent, Staffordshire was quite some distance away. So I decided not to go home for a bit. So I just picked up a job in marketing, which I think I was keen I did that because then you kind of see and can develop and know what you want. So I worked in marketing for a sales company. I went from working in marketing when there was roller coasters out the window and we could walk around the park to sitting in a little office and I was like, there's no theme park here. So coming out of that kind of showed me going, look, no, I think I want to be in this industry. So that was my first little step out. So I was kind of having to think, going, where do I want to go? What do I want to do next? I was really fortunate, and I had a trip up to Alton to celebrate graduating. They did a bit of a ceremony for our cohort. That was attended by Ian Crabb, who was the MD of Resort Theme Parks.
Yeah.
He was really, really good to me in my time up there. So I remember him taking me out for dinner and giving me some words of advice and helping me along the way. And he wandered over to me at graduation and said, basically, I hadn't realised you'd gone. Will you come back? I'd like to create an opportunity for you in marketing.
Wow.
Back to Alton. So it was a really bizarre moment because I'd gone thinking, look, we'll have a nice little graduation day. We had a graduation ceremony on Oblivion. I think there's a news somewhere. So it was a really nice family day, and then I ended up with the real headache of going, crikey, I didn't see this coming.
Yeah.
So it was a really difficult one because I had this golden opportunity handed to me. I was going, look, is this right? Is it where I want to be? Does it align with where I want to go? Ultimately got to the place of going, it just didn't quite work. We couldn't get to a point where it was feasible to make the move up, settle in there. So it was the bizarrest, strangest moment. You're sitting there thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing? Turned around and said, look, I'm so grateful for everything you've done, but this just isn't the right opportunity or the right time. So I turned that down. And then literally within about 2 or 3 days, I heard back from an application I put in for a visitor experience manager at Colchester Zoo. It wasn't a theme park, but again, look, my passion, visitor attractions rather than specifically in the theme park industry. So went to go and see them for a role there and ended up starting with them a few weeks later. So I stepped back into industry in a zoo, something completely new for me. But again, there was a lot transferable because you're dealing with operation, boots, catering. So I basically looked after anything commercial, plus looking at what the visit experience was like. So learning about animals, and some of the things that come with that was really fascinating. So yeah, I went into the zoo, was there for a period, and then in 2020 COVID came, and that kind of ground everything to a halt really.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. And for the industry as a whole, not just theme parks, like you say, attractions, what a tough year that was. And I think we forget now because we look back at COVID and we're like, oh, that was like a weird time and a bit of a fun time in a way because we were all at home and doing Joe Wicks or whatever. But we didn't know when it was going to end. And that must have been the weird thing for attractions because you're like, we have no opening date. We don't know when we're going to get paying guests back in and we still have bills to pay.
I think in the zoo world, it was 10 times worse. So if you look at Upton Towers or you look at the pier here, you can switch it off and it costs nothing. So furlough came along, so the team are all safe. And whilst there was the uncertainty if we don't know when we're coming back, the financial burden wasn't there. You can't switch a zoo off.
Yeah.
No.
So all the animals eat the same. You have to have zookeepers coming in and they've got to be paid. So it was a really scary time for the zoo because they were looking at the reserves just going down and down and down, thinking we need to open soon or this isn't going to be sustainable. So yeah, it was a really interesting thing to watch, but it was concerning and it hit the zoo hard coming out the other side because yeah, they couldn't switch it off. So
Yeah.
that whole time they were closed, there was huge expenses, and it was no cheaper to not be open versus be open really.
Did you stick with the zoo during that time, or how far did you go?
So I was furloughed when we went. I still remember the day we shut the zoo, and I sat down with the zoo manager, and he told me, he said, "Look, we're going to have to close, but no panic. You're as safe as I am. Can't wait to have you back, and we're going to crack on with all these things we'd planned." So I kind of, it felt like I had a really exciting roadmap and future planned out of the zoo, and what was going to happen and where I was going to go and what we were all going to achieve there. And then we found a few months later, following the conversation, going, "Look, you've got nothing to worry about. You're fine." Went to going, "Look," and the zoo literally had to cut pretty much every role that didn't look after an animal,
Yeah.
operate something that directed revenue. So I found myself having gone from this moment where going, "Look, I've landed a role in a really exciting industry, a fantastic attraction," to I'm back out again. I don't know what I'm going to do next. And that's where the early conversations play in your mind going, should I have gone back to Alton? Or I think there's so much. And I think the one thing I've always seen is kind of trust the process because it's not been plain sailing. And look, whilst I'm young to be in the position I'm in, there's still been plenty of bumps and hiccups on the road. So I remember sort of going, look, I kind of had it and got where I'd wanted to be, and then it all disappeared again overnight just because COVID came and wiped the industry out.
From that point then, because it seems quite a jump from going from the zoo stuff to the amusement park on a pier. So, I mean, how did that all like come about then?
I had a few chats about the potential of returning to the zoo, but again, I'm a big believer in things being right. Right time, right place, right role. So we explored a couple of opportunities in the time I was out from the zoo, but it didn't quite line up and it wasn't right. So I went into, I needed to find another role. I went into short-term holiday letting. So the time of which I needed to find a new role, the industry was on its knees. So they weren't recruiting. So there was just literally nothing out there.
And holiday letting was massive in the UK, wasn't it? Because we couldn't go abroad. Everything was like, where can we go?
Holiday letting boomed. So I went into a role as guest experience manager. So very similar. So I was in a company dealing with 400 holiday lets across Suffolk. So look, it's not something I was as passionate about as before, but I learned so much in the time there. So I think, I started in a role there, and then I since grew into that role into an area development role where I was going out and trying to grow the business. So I was with them for near on 3 years, and learnt so much about business and about operations, and organization. So it was a really good chapter for me. And that whole time, I knew I wanted to come back into industry. I think my employer was very open with, they knew I wanted to come back in industry. So I think it was only a matter of when, rather than if. But look, I was in a role I was quite enjoying. I was being challenged, I was growing, I was getting better, I was learning. So there was no tearing urgency to jump. It wasn't a look, the first job I find that's going to be in a visitor attraction or theme park, I'm going in no matter what it is, no matter where it is. It wasn't that at all. It was look, I've kind of decided where I want to be. Um, I kind of know roughly what role I'd like to do. So I explored a few opportunities in that period, in the period I was in that role, and ultimately it was the opportunity at Clacton Pier that I kind of walked away and said, look, I think this is the right place for me to be. So yeah, look, that's how I ended up here anyway.
And you said you grew up in Norfolk. Obviously, Clacton Pier isn't a million miles away from there. So was it somewhere that you already had any kind of history with, any kind of memories of that you used to visit?
I'll be honest, no. Look, I wish this was some Hollywood story where I visited.
My childhood park.
Yeah, yeah. The reality is it isn't. So yeah, look, I grew up in Norfolk. I moved to Suffolk when I got the role at the zoo. So I kind of based myself on Suffolk based on that role. So again, kind of ended up there by accident. I'd been to Clacton once, to do a park run across the seafront. It a few moons ago, and I vaguely remember walking along the seafront and spotting a roller coaster on the edge of the pier, going, I didn't realize that was there, and sort of thinking no more of it. But the biggest opportunity that I saw at the pier when I came here, and hopefully one that we're really growing and capitalizing on, is I think the attraction's amazing, but not enough people know what it is or where it is. So I kind of think that the local draw is very strong. The local people of Clacton are very proud of it. The same when you go sort of up the A12 corridor into Colchester, Chelmsford, but out the way I didn't know it was here. And look, I was someone that was very passionate about parks and attractions. So I think had I've known, I definitely would have come and seen it, but I didn't know it was here. So I came in almost blind. I walked through the doors and I came down before my interview because one bit of advice I remember Ian Crabb always giving me is he said before you ever do an interview for anything in the industry, go down before, suss it out, find a few learnings so that when you sat there in the interview, you can say, actually, I came down last week. I thought this was great. You might want to think about this. I'd like to help you with that. So I came down before my interview. I remember looking at it thinking, this place is amazing. So look, walked away with a reel going, look, I think this could be a good move. So I hadn't been. I haven't sort of had the joy of being a visitor aside from one little secret trip before my interview to try and work out. Yeah, so there's no nostalgia there. But you look, I think the Essex Coast is fortunate to have an attraction like this on it because I'm really passionate about the product offering we've got here. I think it's a nice place to visit.
Yeah. Was there an immediate sort of, I feel like I could be at home here?
I think I saw a really nice polished attraction with high standards. So when I first came, it's hard to see more than what's in front of you. So just kind of saw that they're doing good things here. It's well presented. You can see they care about what they're doing. They care about the game, they care about the experience. But what took it to the next level was when I had a first chat with one of the directors, Billy. So we're owned by two brothers. They grew up in Clacton. They have the nostalgia. They grew up visiting the pier. So there's a brilliant photo of Billy in a pushchair on the seafront with his dad with a pier in the background.
Oh, wow.
But for them, it's very personal, and they kind of feel the responsibility of taking care of the pier for the local people and people of Clacton. So when I first had a chat with him, Billy is so passionate about the industry too. He's passionate about Disney and what they do, as am I. So I remember the first chat we had, we kind of like just ended up going for, I think, like nearly 2 hours just chatting about industry and what was happening. So I think when we had that first conversation, I kind of felt at home thinking, look, there's a group of people here that are passionate about what I'm passionate about. And I think if we work together, we can achieve something really special. So, and that's only grown. So that's not just the directors. I think what is so wonderful about Clacton Pier as a business is everybody here is so passionate about making this work. I've never been in a business, and look, I'm fortunate to be in the number of attractions I've been in at a relatively young age, but I've never been with a team of people so passionate about making something successful as there is here. Everybody really does genuinely care about this being great.
And I think it's really great to have that balance that you've got. Like you said, Harry, it's great to have the balance of people who are really passionate, they've got a history with it, but then you've also got people who might not have that, they can bring something else to the table, and you've got the mix. Because I think sometimes we say like head over heart, doesn't it, gets in the way and things. But I guess it sounds like you've got a really good thing there with having that balance. And I never realized how big it was. Because when I think pier, we go on holiday in Devon a lot. There are lots of piers in Devon, but they're not, they're not massive. But then when I looked at the Clacton, I was like, wow, that is impressive.
Yeah, when you hear Clacton Pier, people think we're a little wooden stick over the sea.
Yeah, that's
I think the reality is the site is 6.5 acres. The team will go up to 240 people in the height of summer. We've got roller coasters, we've got a log flume, we've got an arcade with over 300 games in, we've got a bowling alley, we've got a soft play, we've got an 18-hole adventure golf course, we've got a bar, we've got 4D cinema and dinosaur walk crew, we've got a fish and chip shop, we've got a 110-foot wheel. There is so much on this site that people just don't realize. So what is a wonderful position to be in? And it's not always been this way, because before the current ownership took over, the pier was in a very sorry state. But we're in a position now where you never see someone come and walk through those front doors and have a day out on the pier and walk away and go, you know what? I thought it was going to be better than that. We're so lucky that people are coming in sort of, I don't know quite what they expect, but they come through and they just see all these things to do, and they're walking away going, I didn't realize it would have all that. So I think that's a really lovely position to be in, where kind of we're surprising people every day.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
how do you find the
definitely.
balance with that? When, like you say, because you've got the rides, and then there's miniature golf, and you've got bars and stuff. Like, how do you manage all of those different things? Is it similar to when you were working at theme parks and stuff, or is it slightly different when you're on a pier?
I think it's one of the biggest strengths and challenges of this business. And it's also why I love it so much, because there is so much variety. So we are not just one thing. I'm not running a theme park. Yes, that is one element of the role of which I do, but there are so many different things. So we're kind of jack of all trades to some degree. We're constantly hopping around everywhere. So whilst there are some things that are transferable, so when you're managing a soft play area, you're dealing with capacity, you're dealing with cleanliness, you're dealing with throughputs, there's a food and beverage operation in there. There are some degrees that are transferable, but also kind of like everything is starting from scratch. So we opened Jurassic Pier 2023, which is a themed walkthrough with animatronics and a 4D cinema at the end. And it wasn't like there was something transferable already in the business going, oh, we can just replicate that. We're kind of reinventing it from the beginning. So it is a huge challenge, because there are stuff coming from all different angles, and they are so different, they need to be treated differently. But that's what makes, I think, the pier so special. So yes, it's a challenge, but it's kind of a good challenge, because it means that we have got that variety and there's so many different things for people to do.
It's a big job for you as well, though. Like when you saw that job of general manager and you realized that meant all of this stuff, was there a moment of self-doubt where you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this? Or you're like, no, I've got it. I've got the experience. I'm going to be able to go and do this.
I think, look, I've always been ambitious. So I wanted to push myself as far as I can go, and climb as far as I can on the ladder. So I think, coming into it, there was a bit of a crikey. This is a big role, and I'm young. But I think after I'd got in there for a few weeks and really got to know the team and see how strong the team were, I'm not here to be an expert on anything we do here. We have heads of department that are experts in their field. I'm here to help support them and give them the confidence to do their role. So, look, if I take the bar, for example, I can't run that bar as well as the bar manager can, because I'm not in every day. I don't know how that bar works. So I think I'd be stupid to try and plow in there and go, this is how we should run a bar, because that's not my area of expertise. But I know that it's in safe hands. But equally, the manager down there knows that they're supported, and that I'm there to help them and push them and grow them and develop them. So we have such a strong team in every department, and they all know their field so well. So kind of look at a senior level, it's just about getting the best out of the team we've got there, rather than trying to be an expert in everything, because you wouldn't know every working part in this business, because it is so diverse.
And nobody likes a micromanager.
No, no, no. I think if you bring in good, passionate people to do a role, you need to allow them to do that. So you can't micromanage a business of this size.
No.
Uh, so it's about setting the framework you want them to operate within, but empowering them to make their own decisions, really.
Can I
You,
ask what's the challenge in terms of summer and winter, Harry? You mentioned about obviously at the height of summer, you've got so much staff involved. As someone who lives in Staffordshire, who lives furthest away from the sea you could possibly get to, normally we'd go to the seaside in the summer. What's the challenge in terms of how you run the pier during the winter time?
Fundamentally, it's very different. In the summer, everything's going. It's all nice and flashy, and all the lights are on, and people come for a standard day out you'd expect. So they're doing the rides, they're eating fish and chips on the beach. When we come out of summer, we're a 52-week-a-year attraction, so we're open every day other than Christmas Day. The game changer for that for us was the soft play and the adventure golf course. So that gave us an offer that we felt we could push year round. The winter is not as strong as the summer, and whatever we do, that's not going to be the case. So, but we work quite hard in the shoulder seasons to try and draw people down. So we go live with our Oktoberfest event on Saturday. So we'll have 3 weekends of that, which is so much fun. So the team are setting up for it as we speak, ready to get that. We have a Halloween event. We run Santa's Grottos at Christmas. So we do things out of season to give guests a reason to come, and more so for the local draw a reason to come back. But it's not going to be as strong as in the summer. So a huge amount of our focus and time goes in the area where the business makes a revenue that ultimately sustains it across the year. We have these other areas of opportunity that we try and do things in. Those challenges also go across to staff. So when we are running in the winter, we're running on a much smaller core team. So some of our managers that will be running big teams of 40, 50 people in the summer will all of a sudden in the winter find themselves serving in a kiosk, because there's 2 sides to it, 2 sides to every business. So, and I think anyone that comes in kind of gets that. So I don't think you'll speak to anybody here that says they enjoy the winter. I love the event season because the pier looks different every day and we're doing different things. But nobody here loves the winter because we love it when it's busy and the rides are going, and there's people about and the sun's shining. But the winter is kind of the price you pay to get the summer. So we have these brilliant managers that can run great, huge teams. But also in the winter, they're happy to be running a kiosk or working on the arcade floor or painting something or maintaining a ride. But I think that also is what helps those managers be so in tune with what's going on in their department.
yeah.
Because they are there and managing and talking to an individual that's working in a kiosk, but they know actually I worked in that for 3 months over the winter, so I know what it's like. The rise manager will be involved in the strip down with the rides, so they really get to know the workings of the rides and some of the quirks that come with different types of equipment. So it's an education, but ultimately it's what they need to do to sustain, because a business of this size trying to operate 52 weeks a year, you just can't keep that size that you have in the summer right the way through, because the trade isn't there. No matter how hard we try and how much we put into events and how big the draw is, people want to come to the seaside when it's sunny.
Yeah, and I guess you'll see it's much more of a local trade in winter. I live in Lincolnshire, quite close to the Skegness coast, and I've been there in January, like with my daughter, walking around while it's blowing a gale, and we are the only people there sometimes. And it's amazing actually how much seaside resorts do change from summer to winter. Like, you can't believe it's the same place sometimes when you've seen it on a really quiet day and then you see it on a hot summer's day. It's totally different. You've mentioned your background in marketing. How much of that have you put into the pier? Because you said one of your challenges is to get it more well known beyond the local area. You come up on my TikTok all the time, and you're doing some really cool stuff on TikTok. You are pushing the boundaries of what theme parks, amusement parks tend to do. Is that from you, or do you have a marketer who you work with?
So when I came in, one of the first roles I brought in working with the directors was a digital marketer. So prior to me arriving, they had a PR manager that we still have that writes press releases for the local paper, which I think is incredibly important. They did a few bits with agency, so they did a few bits of radio advertising here and there, but there was no in-house function really.
Mhm.
As a graphic designer that helped them with a few bits of signage, but it was generally the floor team leading the marketing and what the strategy and direction looked like. So we brought this role in very early, and that marketing team has grown a bit now. So we've got two individuals in marketing that do a fantastic job. I speak to them every day. I can't tell if they love it or hate it, but I walk in going, I've had this really great idea. I think we should. Yeah. As a marketer and having spent time in marketing and being passionate about it, I can't switch that off. So
Yeah.
I work so closely with them to help and push what we do. But there was a really good, again, passionate team in there that care about the place and want to push us forward. So we've had a really real big focus on marketing. So we've had a new website built. It's good to see the work we're doing on socials because they're working really hard there. We're doing all sorts of things with advertising. We're back on radio. So we're in a place now where we are happy with the position the attraction's in. So we have confidence in putting it out there saying, we think it's great, come and have a look.
Mm.
Where you go back to the business that the directors bought when they first acquired it, they had to get people down because that's what they needed to do to pay the bills, but they kind of knew that it wasn't where they wanted it to be. So it was a come down, but we're not going to tell you it's too amazing because we don't want to oversell it. But now we're there going, look, we know this is a really strong product offering. So we've got the confidence to market, we've got the team to market, and we've got the experience in house. So I think that I'd like to think in the marketing world, we're doing some really good, exciting things and punching above our weight, hopefully.
Oh, I think, yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And I've worked in marketing, and it does really stand out to me what you're doing. And it's obvious what you're trying to do, and who you're trying to reach. And I think you're doing, a fantastic job of it.
I'm also very passionate in thinking the glory belongs to the team down there. So look, whilst at a more senior level and sit with the directors, whilst there's a huge amount of time, effort that goes into setting the strategy and direction of this business. Actually, when you look at the summer season, our brilliant team of departmental heads are down there putting in the hours, dealing with huge amounts of customers, shifting stock, cleaning, getting the team going. So they work so hard. So look, we try and push the glory to them as much as we can because ultimately they're the ones that make this happen. We're here to provide direction and step in when things go wrong, or give them help and support. But ultimately, on a day-to-day business, the team that make this attraction what it is and make it happen are those guys, not us.
Yeah. And that it's really like, I think it's good of you to acknowledge that and push your team front and center because there's a lot of people who wouldn't do that. Whose idea was it to get Spudman down?
That was one of mine.
If you're not on TikTok, Spudman is a jacket potato seller who is the most famous jacket potato seller in the world. Like it's something like 5 million followers now. It's ridiculous, isn't it? And he came to Clacton Pier.
Yeah, I keep an eye on socials and see what's going on and came across him. I thought, look, I think he'd be quite good for us here. Trying to get hold of him was a nightmare.
She'd just driven up to Tamworth.
I was working on it for like 3 months trying to get hold of him. Finally got hold of him and went to go and see the directors who are so good. Look, I love working for them both because they get it. They allow me to do things and run with things. So I went to go and see him going, look, got this guy called Spudman. I think he'll be big for us. Can I put him on the front to sell jacket potatoes? And they're going, look, just crack him. And so yeah, we arranged a weekend for him to come down. It was really hard to get him to confirm. So I remember we're going via email saying that he was coming, and he was going to call me to confirm it and say he was coming. And it got to I think 1 week before, and he still hadn't phoned me. And I was going to the marketing guys going, look, we need to push this, but I don't want to do it yet because I'm worried that this is all going to fall. So he finally phoned up and said, look, all go. And we went out to socials, and it went crazy.
Yeah.
And then I remember that Saturday morning, us down here, we'd hired in a load of queue line fencing and set up queue. We'd set up about 2 hours worth of queue thinking that's going to be fine. And I remember my rides manager phoning me from home. He got here at 7:30 in the morning. And he phoned me up. He said, we're nearly full. And I was driving thinking, what have I done? What have I done? And yeah, that Saturday we were just running barriers from anywhere on the pier and just making this queue longer and longer, and it got up to 4.5 hour queue.
Wow.
But it was a wonderful weekend, and I love things like that because it brings everyone together. The team get excited, people come down and see what we're about. So yeah, look, it was a really, really good weekend and one that I'll remember fondly. But yeah, that volume of people was insane.
Yeah.
Most amazing. So look, we're very hands-on here. The directors are hands-on. So we always have been. We like to try and lead from the front. So I spent a lot of time on the floor, stood on the back of the queue, sort of telling people, look, just so you know, it's going to be 4.5 hour wait if you want to get in the queue. And there was a 50-50 split in society between, yeah, that's no problem at all, can't wait. And people were loving queuing 4.5 hours. And then the other half of the people were going, that's ridiculous, 4.5 hours for a jacket potato. There was no middle. It was one or the other. There was either, oh, this is brilliant. Yeah, 4.5 hours, great. And I think it was a bit of like getting your battle stripes. So I've waited 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
The other group of people going, no, this is ridiculous. Look,
Did you run out of potatoes as well? Did you have to keep buying more potatoes in? Did you have someone running down to Asda? Quick, keep.
Fortunately, the catering wasn't our problem. It was very much.
Oh, okay.
Ben Spudman, I remember, caught me towards the back end of Saturday. He's going, can you find out what time Booker's open? Because, yeah, they got through stock very quickly. So they were going out to get stock on Sunday morning. But whereas when we're looking at our own run event, sometimes you're looking at the volume of people thinking, crikey, we've got a problem. We were kind of stood there going, look, we don't want people to be disappointed, but we're not selling jacket potatoes.
Yeah.
This one isn't on us.
Yeah.
Did you get one?
I did, yeah. So
what was your topping of choice?
This is a very sad story, this one. So
we need some music.
The seagull come and take it.
Got sad music you put underneath. Yeah, I was stood next to the spud wagon most of the day smelling them, and I had my eye on the pulled pork. I remember even emailing Ben Spudman and going, look, I've got my eyes on cheese, pulled pork, crispy onions, hot honey.
But
I decided
nice.
what I
Yeah,
wanted.
good choice.
Nice.
And then it got to about lunchtime, and I thought, look, I can't just stick my head in the van when people are waiting 4.5 hours and saying, will you just chuck me a spud out? I was like, morally, I cannot do this. So I said, I will wait until the last person served before I have one. So it was like 9 o'clock at night on that Saturday. We finally served the last person. I'm like, look, okay, I'm now morally okay with me having a jacket potato. Can I have a pulled pork, please? No, I sold out of that about an hour. Yeah, this pulled pork I've been thinking of all day, I couldn't have. So I had a chicken curry thing. It's quite nice, but it was the juxtaposition of like everything was crazy throughout the day. The team were phenomenal, both the team and our team. They really, really just got it and made it work. So we went from that buzz of having all these people around to me up here in the office at 9 o'clock at night eating a sad jacket potato on my own when everyone had gone home. But I think, that's what it's about sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, and you'll always have that memory, albeit not the pulled pork.
You have to come back again. You just invite him to come back again, and then just get to the front of the queue,
elbowing like families.
Right, I am
and
not missing out this time.
On that Sunday, they started queuing at 3:30 in the morning. And look, it was a nice jacket potato. It was a nice jacket potato, but if that queue was any more than 10 minutes, I wasn't staying. I'm quite pleased to come out without having to queue, even though it was late at night.
You've had a great summer. You've been at the pier for the sort of 3 years now.
I think 3 years in March.
Yeah.
It feels like I was chatting to the directors the other day. It feels like I've never been anywhere other than here. And I feel so lucky to see what I've seen during the time I've been in industry and have the experience under my belt I've got at the age I have. But it's hard to imagine a world other than here, because I think, and everyone that comes here just jumps in with 2 feet and just gets stuck in. So we kind of say it's a bit of a bug that bites you and it just gets under your skin, because we see it with everyone that comes in. People just get it and they just do what needs to happen. So yeah, I'm approaching 3 years, but if you came to me and told me that I'd been here from the second I finished school, I probably would.
I've seen some things, man. How challenging is it in your side of the amusement park industry at the moment. You know, we've heard just up the road, Adventure Island have said, you know, they are finding it tough. Like it's difficult. North Pier in Blackpool is up for sale at the moment. How are you finding it?
It's so hard. It's so hard. You see what we're losing in industry. You see your Oakwoods, are
R.I.P.
disappearing. These small regional parks, it's so tough. So, if we look at this, when the national insurance and minimum wage went up, we were slapped with a bill of hundreds of thousands of pounds overnight, and that doesn't give us anything more. Uh, so we are operating exactly the same way that we were the day before, but per year it's costing us hundreds of thousands of pounds more to do so. Everything's getting more and more expensive. We don't want to, and you can't pass that on to the consumer because things are difficult and tight for them. So we're in this period as a business where we're literally going through everything to try and find a saving anywhere we can. So the last few years we've operated rides right the way through the winter. We're being quite proud to be somewhere that is running roller coasters in January weekends and right the way through. This winter we're not able to do that, so we will shut our rides at the end of November and not open till February half term. We're still going to have a longer season than most UK parks, but that chapter that we used to be able to operate through and give our rides team stable hours, we can't do anymore. So we've had to cut our cloth accordingly to the situations and circumstances we're in. Look, we're quite fortunate that we were able to find the savings and we had those levers to pull to absorb that cost and move forward. But you see these attractions that can't do that, that kind of they just tend to disappear. So I think it's a really concerning time for industry. I understand on the guest side, look, there's people that are upset when you're seeing short opening hours, or you're seeing midweek closures, or you're seeing staggered openings. But I think the harsh reality we're in now with the hand of cards we've been dealt, it's kind of, you've either got that or you're potentially going to lose the park. So I think it's about managing expectations and being grateful and celebrating that we're being able to still be here and hopefully ride this wave and come out the other side again. So it's difficult. And there's also challenges that come with being a peer. So going, look, you would never build a pier these days because
you wouldn't.
So look, it's in excess of £1 million just to keep this thing standing every year.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I think there's so much that have to go into just making sure this pier is here for future generations. But there is such a drive and passion in this business. So we've been here for over 150 years. It's so important to the local community. So look, a lot of people say that Clacton is nothing without the pier. So we feel we owe it to those people to make sure we're still here. We've been here for 150 years, but it is getting harder and harder every year to make this work. So we've had to make changes. We've had to do things in a different way. But we are some of the fortunate ones that are able to do that, because you look at some other small parks and you've got to fear for them, because if they haven't got those levers available to pull, it sadly is only heading in one direction. And as someone passionate with the industry, that breaks my heart, because I think the local parks are brilliant and nice to have around. Look, hopefully some support will come. And they'll look at us and help us out. But at the moment, it's a little bleak, although we're doing all we can to make sure that we're going to be here for the foreseeable.
Yeah. We've talked a lot on this podcast about the impact of Universal on smaller parks. Is that something you've thought about? Do you think it'll affect you in any way? Or are you like, no, we are two totally different beasts?
Look, if I look at myself just purely with my passion, I'm so excited to see Universal coming to the UK. I think it's going to be brilliant. I think the small regional parks, I generally think will be fine. Because if you go to a regional park, you're doing it on a weekend, you're doing it on a school holiday, you're trying to keep things occupied. Those I fear for are your bigger, your Alton Towers, your Thorpe Parks, your Chessingtons, this is our one big day out a year. Because I think when it's a family, look, we always did it, we'd go to Alton Towers once a year. All of a sudden you've got something else in that group. So I don't see a world, unless the financial the financial situation in the country vastly changes. I don't see a world when people go, let's have one day at each, going, They
That's
get
true.
one special day, so they've got a choice to make. I think Universal, because of the quality and the pool that's going to get, is going to take a huge amount of trade there.
Hmm.
So some of these bigger parks are going to try and compete, but the challenge that's going to come with that is I think they will become much more regional, but they are at a scale that's not sustainable and regional. So
Mm.
if you look at a Alton Towers, for example, and I know they're taking steps to look hopefully be able to compete and ride the wave of Universal coming in, but if they were purely a regional park, they couldn't have the visitation or that they couldn't run that in a way that was sustainable. So local
Yeah.
parks, I think, look, I think it's going to be great for the industry and great to get people in and excited about theme parks. So I think we'll benefit from it. But you do fear for those almost flagship attractions in the UK because there's going to be a new flagship attraction that's shiny and new and got potentially bigger
Mm.
and better things. So I think people's decision making is going to go from their one trip of the year is potentially going to start looking
Mm.
something else. So
Yeah.
dear fear for them, but a business aside of Merlin, no doubt will have a huge amount of planning in place and they'll have a strategy and they're going to know what they're going to do. So um, look, I'm going to be watching with great interest to see how they react and where they go next.
Yeah.
Where they go
Mm.
next to try and sustain it. But from our perspective here, I think we're going to be relatively no different, or
Yeah.
if anything, we'll come better off because it will get people excited about theme parks, roller coasters, days out. I firmly believe even in all those parks that are getting criticism, they're generally trying their best. The area that we're existing in, as we've just discussed, is so challenging. So I don't believe anywhere, and I know Merlin gets a lot of stick. And look, I got a lot of experience and learnt a lot from Merlin.
Hmm.
Everyone in those parks are a good group of people that really care. So no one sits in a meeting going, right, let's knock a load of hours off this week and really wind people up, or
Hmm.
yeah, the operations, let's have bad operations, or I'll tell you what, let's just open those later because why not? Going, look, it's people in this industry, you only come in this industry if you care about it. There are so many other roles and so many different other avenues to go down that are more sociable hours and work better for families
Yeah.
and allow you to sit in an office all day and have an easier, much more straightforward life. So nobody comes into this industry unless you care about it and you're passionate about it. So almost take comfort in knowing that the people that have the hands of all these parks around the country, around the world, actually care about this being good.
Hmm.
Um, there are sometimes your hands forced and you've got no option but to do it. So there's no doubt some of those parks are in a difficult place, but I know the team there will be feeling it because whenever we have challenges there, we feel it here. So I start every single morning before I go into work. I'll open up every review site for Clacton Pier and read every bit of feedback on there because I,
Wow.
I genuinely care about what someone's day out is like here. So I've got no doubt that those individuals will be even in the big parks, in the small local parks. So people do generally look, and when we have a day that's not gone right here, the team are disappointed about it because they care, and it will be the same in those big parks. So
Mm.
they are struggling. There's challenges they're facing, but that's not because they're not trying. I think that there's so many challenges that everyone's trying to face at the moment. So I think just even getting these parks open and sustaining them, I think is a real win. And look, I really hope we'll get out the other side of it and we'll start to get a bit of support from the government.
Oh yeah.
And they'll give us some backing because it's important. But look, I think it's important when we're giving criticism. And look, you're always entitled to criticize because you've paid to have a day out there. So you ultimately are their customer, you're their guest, so you're entitled to give the feedback.
Mm.
I think what bothers me is when it's kind of the face is taken away from it, and you don't see a group of people that are sat around that table that are really going, look, the position we're in is not good. People are upset about it, but actually, what can we do? So yeah, I think it's important to remember the people that are generally trying their best to
Mm.
make it work. What got me about the industry and what encapsulated me as a child and made this the area I want to go into is going that no matter what's going on, every day's got to be as close to perfect as we can achieve. So we've worked really hard with the team here this year about making everything tangible, every interaction,
Mm.
every conversation, every piece of eye contact, every area presentation is a tangible part of someone's day.
Yeah.
When people come down, quite often they only come down once. It might be their one special day all year. So we feel that we owe it to the guest to make it perfect. But it's not always perfect. Things go wrong. Weather might not be on our side. Staffing levels might not be where they want to be. We might have issues with stock. There can be so many variables going on, but we kind of owe it to try and make it as perfect as possible. So, yeah, I think it's certainly a shame that there's things that are going up against some of these parks at the moment. But there is a really passionate, caring group of people in this industry that are trying to make it the best it can be. And you just need to look at your Oakwoods and Flambards to remind yourself what the alternative is.
Yeah, it's very true. And I think we also sometimes need to remind ourselves that we are theme park enthusiasts. And with that, we're here for a reason. It's because we enjoy theme parks, not just enjoy not having a good time at them. Like we genuinely want them to succeed and do well, and we all want to have a good time. Harry, it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you on Parkcast. I still can't believe you're only 27. Like, I'm actually quite outraged and quite annoyed. I feel quite old. And I'll tell you
a quick funny story, Bex, from my first week. So I started here. I started here at 24. I wouldn't tell anyone how old I was when I started, because look, age is always a barrier. I'm a strong believer, if you're good enough, you're old enough. So fortunately, the directors here took the same approach with me. So they were happy to give me a punt at 24. But when I arrived, I wouldn't tell anyone how old I was. It was a big secret of how old is the GM. I think there was one day I had to run someone somewhere in one of the company vehicles. And I think I was in the finance office at the time. And the finance manager who'd been pricing a few bits, I knew how old I was, had a quiet whisper in my ear going, you can't actually drive the company vehicle yet. So wow. I started here before I could drive company vehicles, and then what makes you feel even younger is I'm younger than the log flume on the pier. So.
Oh, no. Oh God. Okay. Well, on that bombshell, you are doing fantastic things there. I'm really pleased that it's in your hands, because I think you're absolutely the right person to be taking it where it needs to go. I think you've got very clear vision. You're very respectful of your team, and it's nice to hear a positive story from within the industry. And hopefully, we will have a lovely summer in the UK like we had this year, and everything will go really well for you guys. I'm really excited to see what you do next. Before I let you go, I have got one more question for you.
Just gotta ride it.
This is Just Gotta Ride It. It's the part of the podcast where we ask our guest, if you could only save one roller coaster in the world, what's it gonna be? And everything else is getting destroyed. Even your rides potentially on Clacton Pier. Sorry about that. But now is not the time for heart overhead. You need to work out which coaster we should all be going and riding.
I think first with the business head on, I'm surprised no one's played this little loophole first, but I'm like, if you're wiping out all roller coasters, we'll keep the looping star, because everyone's coming here to ride it. I think on a more serious front, because I think if the only coaster in the world is a Pinfari, I think
this podcast would fail to exist.
It does very good for us. It's a good piece of kit.
It's a classic.
Yeah,
we are. But
it looks great on the pier as well.
Yeah.
I think those particular models. So if you put that in an amusement park where there are tall rides around it for scale, it looks like a Hot Wheels track. It looks tiny, but when it's out in the middle of the sea with nothing around it, it looks quite big and imposing. But in all seriousness, if we're not exploiting the loophole to get more visitation, I've been really thinking about this one, because I've got so many options to go down. But the one that stands out for me is, look, we talked about when I first thought about the industry, I was terrified of roller coasters. So the one moment that stands out in my head is, Orlando's always been very special for me. I think Disney do it better than anyone. So we've been lucky to go out there and see it a few times as a family. Prior to going out to a trip there, I'd really got into industry and really got into theme parks, visit attractions and roller coasters. And they were building Mako, the B&M hypercoaster there. And I remember as a teenager logging onto YouTube every couple of days and watching this thing go together piece by piece. And then watching the opening day and watching the feedback, and then finally a couple of months later going out there and riding it and loving it. And just with that being so full circle, I think that kind of sums up what's so wonderful about this, that you can kind of have a connection with something before you've even been there. So I, as a teenager, not knowing what I would go on to do or what industry I'd go on to be in, or that I'd be working with roller coasters now, took so much enjoyment in just watching that thing go together. But to then be there and ride it and get off and go, no, that was really good. And look, I know there's better roller coasters out there. So if you ask me, look, what I prefer, it's not going to be right up there, because there's brilliant stuff out there, and look, we've been on bigger and better stuff. But that was something that just captured my imagination, and I remember just really, seeing it come out of the ground and then finally being stood in front of it. It was a nice little feeling. So I'd probably keep that one.
No, it's an excellent answer, and this is kind of the point of this feature. It's not necessarily about the biggest or the fastest or the most thrilling. It's about something that means something to you, and I think you summed up perfectly. A lot of us go through that stage of watching a roller coaster being built piece by piece, and then finally getting to ride it, and it's a special moment. So.
I thought you were going to say the corkscrew, because I thought you just so you could have been on it.
Bring it back.
Save that one.
Resurrect it.
Although to be fair, it's already been destroyed, so we can't. Does it count? Does that count, Bex?
You could take the one at like Cedar Point, couldn't you? You could take any other arrow corkscrew, and it would be pretty much the same.
We had a Goma coaster on the pier back in the 80s.
Did you?
Wow.
It's called Whirlwind. It was open in the 80s, and they bought it in from Vekoma. It lasted like 1 year because the repayments were so high they couldn't afford to keep it. But if you have a look at this thing, it was so massive. It took over nearly the whole outside ride area. So it's the equivalent of us deciding we're going to take out every ride we've got and just build one massive roller coaster.
Do
it. What's amazing is one of the guys we've got that's still with us in the engineering side of things has been at the pier, I think, nearly 40 years. So he has been back in the eras of when we had killer whales and dolphins and really crazy past. Wow. And he remembers that coaster. So chatting to him about it, saying, I think it had a stupidly long train. He said, like, by the time it had ended the lift hill, the other half was pretty much in the station. So I think it wasn't really a good ride, but it was a big old kit to be on there. So yeah, I don't think that one's coming back. But
no one's mentioned it yet.
No.
I mean, we know what I'm going to be doing immediately after I finish this podcast is looking that up.
Searching up.
Whirlwind on Clacton Pier is a big old lump, but I suppose my honourable mention that I should also put in, not that I have really any kind of history or nostalgia with it, I'd nearly put in the Ultimate Lightwater Valley, and I think it's because I can't ride. But I just remember going on it when I was up at Alton with a few friends, and it was just so utterly bizarre. I feel like all modern day roller coasters are so predictable now, and you kind of know what they're going to do. And I just remember going on it, and it just does the opposite at every time. Coming into the break run with bruised thighs and smiling.
It was crazy. It was like literally built by like pipe manufacturers or something.
Which is why I think it's brilliant. I think there's so many similar rides out there that are smooth and good fun, and I think for me I'm not one that's into counting what I've been on or trying to rank things or do top 20. I just enjoy good rides, but they all kind of blur into one. But occasionally you'll find this bonkers brilliant kit, and I think the one of those. So it's such a shame it's gone.
Yeah.
But it felt like your granddad had made it in his shed.
Half asleep by the time we got to the top of the lift hill.
Which one?
Well, yes.
I'm a bit sad
about my day.
But I think for the nostalgia reasons, I've got to stick with my original choice, really.
It's good. I'll lock it in. Yeah. It's safe. Don't worry. Harry, once again, thanks so much for coming on Fartcast. I know you've got a busy day, and obviously you're planning your Halloween event, so I will let you get on with doing that. Far more important things than chatting to us. If you have enjoyed today's episode and you haven't already, please do hit subscribe so that you get a notification whenever we release a new episode. And if you fancy leaving us a review, like Harry, we read them all. So please do that. But just don't be mean, please. For now, though, we've been Parkcast.
Parkcast. The UK's original theme park podcast.